The studio lights were blinding, casting a warm glow over the sleek, modern set of liberal TV. The audience, a mix of curious onlookers and seasoned journalists, buzzed with anticipation. Tonight's guest was none other than Barron Trump, the youngest son of the former president, Donald Trump. Barron, now in his early 20s, had largely stayed out of the public eye, making his appearance on the show all the more intriguing. The host, a sharp-witted and charismatic interviewer named Claire Bennett, adjusted her earpiece and glanced at her notes. She had prepared for this moment meticulously, knowing that Barron's presence would draw millions of viewers. The questions were straightforward at first, designed to ease him into the conversation. But Claire had a knack for digging deeper, and she wasn't about to let this opportunity slip by. Barron walked onto the stage, his tall frame commanding attention. Dressed in a tailored navy suit, he exuded a quiet confidence that seemed to surprise the audience. He shook Claire's hand with a polite smile and took his seat, his piercing blue eyes scanning the room. The crowd erupted into applause, but Barron remained composed, almost stoic. "Welcome to the show, Barron," Claire began, her tone warm but probing. "It's not every day we get to sit down with someone who's grown up in the spotlight but managed to stay so elusive. How does it feel to be here?" Barron leaned back slightly, his expression thoughtful. "Thank you, Claire. It's different, I'll admit. I've spent most of my life avoiding the cameras, so this is a bit out of my comfort zone. But I'm here to share my perspective, for what it's worth." Claire nodded, her smile widening. "Well, we're glad to have you. Let's start with something light. You've just graduated from college. Congratulations. By the way, what's next for you? Any plans to step into the family business, so to speak?" Barron chuckled softly, a hint of amusement in his eyes. "Thank you. It's been a long journey, but I'm proud of what I've accomplished. As for the family business, well, politics is a complicated world. I've seen it up close, and it's not something I'm rushing into." The audience murmured, intrigued by his response. Claire leaned forward, her curiosity piqued. "So, you're saying you're not interested in following in your father's footsteps? No aspirations to run for office someday?" Barron paused, his gaze steady. "I think it's important to carve your own path. My father's legacy is his own, and I respect that. But I want to make my mark in a different way. Politics. It's not the only way to make a difference." Claire raised an eyebrow, sensing an opening. "That's a refreshing perspective. But let's be honest, your name carries a lot of weight. Do you feel pressure to live up to the Trump brand?" Barron's expression shifted slightly, a flicker of something unreadable crossing his face. "Pressure is inevitable when you're in the public eye. But I've learned to focus on what matters to me. I'm not here to be a symbol or a spokesperson for anyone else. I'm just me." The audience seemed to hang on his every word, captivated by his calm demeanor and measured responses. Claire, however, wasn't ready to let him off the hook just yet. She glanced at her notes, a sly smile playing on her lips. "All right, Barron, let's dive a little deeper. You've been described as an enigma, someone who's seen it all but says very little. What's something about you that would surprise people?" Barron hesitated for a moment, his fingers tapping lightly on the armrest of his chair. Then, with a faint smile, he said, "I think people would be surprised to know that I'm not as detached from politics as they might think. I've been observing, learning, and I have my own ideas about where this country should be headed." The room fell silent, the weight of his words sinking in. Claire's eyes sparkled with intrigue. "Care to elaborate on that?" Barron leaned forward, his tone earnest. "I believe in unity, in finding common ground. The division we see today, it's not sustainable. If we want to move forward, we need to start listening to each other, not just shouting past one another." Claire nodded, impressed by his candor. "That's a powerful message. Do you see yourself playing a role in bridging that divide?" Barron's smile returned, but there was a glint of something deeper in his eyes. "Maybe, but not in the way people might expect." The audience erupted into applause, clearly moved by his words. Claire, sensing the momentum, decided to push further. Barron, you've mentioned unity and common ground. But let's get real for a moment. Your father's presidency was one of the most polarizing in recent history. How do you reconcile that with your own vision for the future?
Barron's expression grew serious, and for the first time, a hint of tension filled the air.
My father and I are two different people. I respect him, but I don't have to agree with everything he's done. I believe in learning from the past, not being defined by it. Claire nodded, her tone softening. That's a mature perspective. But let me ask you this, if the opportunity presented itself, would you ever consider running for president? The room seemed to hold its breath. Barron looked directly into the camera, his gaze unwavering. I think I already am. The audience gasped, a wave of shock rippling through the studio. Claire's eyes widened, her professional composure momentarily slipping. I'm sorry, did you just say? You're already president.
Barron's lips curved into a faint smile, but his eyes remained intense.
That's right. In my own way, I've been leading for a while now. It's just no one's been paying attention. The studio erupted into chaos, the audience buzzing with disbelief and excitement. Claire, recovering quickly, leaned in closer. Barron, you've just dropped a bombshell. What do you mean by that? Are you saying you've been involved in politics behind the scenes?
Barron leaned back, his demeanor calm but enigmatic.
Let's just say, I've been working on something big, and tonight, I'm ready to share it with the world.
The camera zoomed in on his face, capturing the determination in his eyes. The screen faded to black, leaving viewers on the edge of their seats.
The studio was in an uproar. The audience, initially stunned into silence, now buzzed with a mix of confusion, excitement, and disbelief. Cameras panned across the room, capturing every wide-eyed expression and whispered comment.
Claire Bennett, ever the professional, quickly regained her composure, though her voice carried a hint of incredulity.
Barron, I think I speak for everyone here when I say. What exactly do you mean by that? Are you suggesting that you've been acting as president in some capacity? Or is this a metaphor? Barron remained calm, his posture relaxed but his eyes sharp and focused. He leaned forward slightly, his hands resting on his knees. It's not a metaphor, Claire. And it's not about titles or official positions. It's about action. Leadership isn't confined to the Oval Office. It's about stepping up when others won't, about making decisions that matter, even if no one's watching. Claire's brow furrowed as she processed his words. So, you're saying you've been leading in some unofficial capacity? Can you give us an example? What kind of decisions are we talking about? Barron hesitated for a moment, as if weighing his words carefully. Then, with a steady voice, he began to unravel the mystery. Over the past few years, I've been working on a project, a movement, really. It's called the Silent Majority Initiative. It's not about politics as usual. It's about empowering people to take control of their own lives, their communities, and their futures. We've been operating under the radar, but the impact has been real. The audience murmured, intrigued but still skeptical. Claire leaned in, her curiosity palpable. This sounds fascinating, Barron, but I think we need more details. What does this initiative actually do? And why keep it a secret? Barron's lips curved into a faint smile. It wasn't about secrecy. It was about proving that change doesn't have to come from the top down. We've been working on grassroots projects, education reform, community building, sustainable development. The kind of things that don't make headlines but make a real difference in people's lives. Claire nodded slowly, her expression a mix of admiration and skepticism. That's commendable, Barron. But why call yourself president? Isn't that a bit misleading?
Barron's gaze intensified, and for the first time, a flicker of emotion broke through his calm exterior.
Because someone has to lead, Claire. Not with speeches or slogans, but with action. The world doesn't need another politician. It needs someone who's willing to do the hard work, even when no one's watching. That's what I've been doing. And if that makes me a president in my own right, then so be it. The room fell silent, the weight of his words hanging in the air. Claire studied him for a moment, then leaned back in her chair. All right, Barron. Let's say we take you at your word. What's next for the silent majority initiative? Are you planning to go public with this? And what about your family? Do they know about this? Barron's expression softened slightly. My family knows, of course. They've been supportive, in their own way. But this isn't about them. It's about the people who've been left behind, who feel like their voices don't matter. As for what's next, that's why I'm here tonight. It's time to bring this movement into the light. To show people that they don't have to wait for someone else to fix the problems. They can do it themselves. The audience erupted into applause, some still skeptical but others clearly inspired by his words. Claire, sensing the shift in the room, decided to press further. Barron, this is all very compelling, but let's address the elephant in the room. You're the son of a former president. Your name carries a lot of weight, for better or worse. How do you expect people to separate you from your father's legacy? And how do you plan to deal with the inevitable comparisons? Barron's jaw tightened, but his voice remained steady. I can't control how people see me, Claire. All I can do is show them who I am. My father's legacy is his own. I respect it, but I'm not defined by it. I'm my own person, with my own ideas and my own vision for the future. If people want to compare me to him, that's their choice. But I'm not here to be the next Donald Trump. I'm here to be the first Barron Trump. The audience erupted into cheers, some standing to applaud. Claire smiled, clearly impressed by his resolve. Well, Barron, you've certainly given us a lot to think about tonight. But before we wrap up, I have to ask, what's your endgame here? Are you planning to run for office? Or is this movement your way of staying outside the traditional political system? Barron leaned back, his expression thoughtful. I'm not ruling anything out, Claire. But for now, my focus is on the silent majority initiative. If that leads to something bigger, so be it. But I'm not in this for the power or the fame. I'm in it to make a difference. The studio lights dimmed slightly as the interview drew to a close. Claire extended her hand, her smile genuine. Barron, thank you for sharing your story with us tonight. It's been enlightening, to say the least. Barron shook her hand, his grip firm but not overbearing. Thank you, Claire. It's been a pleasure. As the credits rolled, the camera lingered on Barron's face, capturing the quiet determination in his eyes. The screen faded to black, leaving viewers with a sense of anticipation and curiosity. The studio lights dimmed slightly as the interview entered its final segment. Claire Bennett, still reeling from Barron's earlier revelation, leaned forward with a mix of curiosity and skepticism. The audience, too, was on the edge of their seats, eager to hear more from the enigmatic young man who had just declared himself a president in his own right. Barron, Claire began, her tone measured but probing, you've given us a lot to think about tonight. But I have to ask, when you said you're already president, did you mean that literally? Or was it more of a philosophical statement? Barron's lips twitched, as if he were holding back a smile. He leaned back in his chair, his demeanor relaxed but his eyes sharp. Claire, let me ask you something. What does it mean to be a president? Is it about the title, the office? Or is it about the actions you take, the lives you touch, and the change you create? Claire raised an eyebrow, clearly intrigued. That's a fair question, but you're avoiding mine. Are you saying you've been acting as a president in some unofficial capacity, or was that statement more symbolic? Barron chuckled softly, the sound low and deliberate. Maybe it was a bit of both. Or maybe I was just messing with you. The audience gasped, a wave of shock rippling through the room. Claire's eyes widened, her professional composure slipping for a moment. Wait, are you saying you were joking? Barron's smile widened, and for the first time, a playful glint appeared in his eyes. Let's just say I wanted to see how people would react. The truth is, I'm not a president, not in the traditional sense, anyway. But I do believe in leading by example, in making a difference where it matters most. And if that means ruffling a few feathers along the way, so be it."
The room erupted into a mix of laughter and murmurs, the tension breaking like a wave against the shore.
Claire shook her head, a bemused smile on her lips. "Well, Barron, you certainly know how to keep us on our toes. But let's get serious for a moment. What's next for you? Are you planning to step into the political arena, or are you content to stay on the sidelines?" Barron's expression grew thoughtful, his playful demeanor giving way to something more earnest. "I'm not ruling anything out, Claire. But for now, my focus is on the Silent Majority Initiative. It's a project I've been working on for years, and it's something I truly believe in. Whether that leads me to politics or not, well, we'll see." Claire nodded, her curiosity piqued once more. "Tell us more about this initiative. What's the goal, and how do you plan to achieve it?" Barron leaned forward, his tone serious but passionate. "The goal is simple: to empower people to take control of their own lives and communities. Too often, we wait for someone else to fix the problems, whether it's the government, a non-profit, or some other entity. But real change starts at the grassroots level. It starts with individuals coming together to make a difference." He paused, his gaze sweeping across the audience. "We've already seen some incredible results. In one community, we helped launch a program that provides free tutoring and mentorship for at-risk youth. In another, we worked with local businesses to create job training programs for people who've been out of work for years. These are small steps, but they add up. And that's what the Silent Majority Initiative is all about, taking those small steps and turning them into something bigger."
The audience erupted into applause, clearly moved by his words.
Claire, too, seemed impressed, though she couldn't resist pressing further. "That's admirable, Barron. But let's address the elephant in the room. You're the son of a former president. Your name carries a lot of weight, for better or worse. How do you expect people to separate you from your father's legacy? And how do you plan to deal with the inevitable comparisons?" Barron's jaw tightened, but his voice remained steady. "I can't control how people see me, Claire. All I can do is show them who I am. My father's legacy is his own. I respect it, but I'm not defined by it. I'm my own person, with my own ideas and my own vision for the future. If people want to compare me to him, that's their choice. But I'm not here to be the next Donald Trump. I'm here to be the first Barron Trump."
The audience erupted into cheers, some standing to applaud.
Claire smiled, clearly impressed by his resolve. "Well, Barron, you've certainly given us a lot to think about tonight. But before we wrap up, I have to ask, what's your endgame here? Are you planning to run for office? Or is this movement your way of staying outside the traditional political system?" Barron leaned back, his expression thoughtful. "I'm not ruling anything out, Claire. But for now, my focus is on the Silent Majority Initiative. If that leads to something bigger, so be it. But I'm not in this for the power or the fame. I'm in it to make a difference."
The studio lights dimmed slightly as the interview drew to a close.
Claire extended her hand, her smile genuine. "Barron, thank you for sharing your story with us tonight. It's been enlightening, to say the least."
Barron shook her hand, his grip firm but not overbearing.
"Thank you, Claire. It's been a pleasure." As the credits rolled, the camera lingered on Barron's face, capturing the quiet determination in his eyes. The screen faded to black, leaving viewers with a sense of anticipation and curiosity.